Welcome, everyone, to the Club Excellence Series. We are passing through a series of meetings on Tuesdays where we are discovering many aspects of the moments of truth. We have with us tonight an experienced Toastmaster, Professor Robert Ekblaw. Robert Ekblaw, DTM, began his long Toastmaster career in August 1988. In his lengthy Toastmasters experience, he has been a member of 9 different clubs. He has served in each club office, including president of 3 different clubs. He has been a district officer 4 times, an area governor, now called an area director, 3 times, a division lieutenant governor, now called division director. He has been awarded the District Division Lieutenant Governor of the Year, District Outstanding Toastmaster of the Year, and was the first Triple Crown Award recipient in District 53. He has founded 3 clubs and served as a club coach or mentor 3 times. He currently serves as Sergeant-at-Arms and VPE Pro Tem of Clifton Park Half Moon Toastmasters Club, number 7877. Please give a warm welcome to Professor Robert Ekblaw, who will be discussing an important part of Moments of Truth and I will let Professor Ekblaw introduce our topic tonight. Thank you, Professor Ekblaw.
Thank you very much. So I'm bringing up the screen of what I will be discussing. Everybody see this? Okay.
Yes, I see the slides.
Perfect. All right. So as Jim pointed out, this is a series of meetings based on the Club Excellence Moments of Truth, and we're on the 4th meeting. So Pillar 4, they call them pillars now. I've been in Toastmasters long enough. I've seen various labels for things, so okay, I can adapt. What Pillar 4 is all about is effective meetings and what goes into effective meetings. And it specifically looks at the planning prior to the start of the meeting and how the meeting is organized when it's presented. And that's what we'll be focusing on in this evening's conversation. Okay, I'm just adjusting my screen a little bit here so I have my controls at my fingertips. Okay, good. There it goes. So this pillar of the Moments of Truth has 5 basic items that it concentrates on, which is the agendas for the meetings, the roles, the functionary roles at each of the meetings, the speeches presented at meetings, the program itself, both as presented at a meeting and the club's program as it applies to the series of meetings throughout the district year. And then focusing on evaluations that occur at the meeting, because that's really the aspect of Toastmasters that sets us apart from other groups or organizations. And so we examine that in this session as well. Now, with each of these 5, there's a Toastmasters call it a standard. There is a fundamental, foundational level at which we want each of these to be. So for agendas, we want a structured agenda and a common structured agenda. Now, when I say common, it doesn't mean every club follows it the exact same way. I've been visiting different clubs. I've been a member of different clubs. Things get rearranged and so forth. Some people do table topics first, whatever the organization is. But when I say common structure, the meetings, unless you're having a special meeting like a contest, the structure of each meeting is guests have that common sense. It starts to become comfortable to them. And we also want the agendas to be published so that the members, guests may not necessarily have access to it, but the members are able to access it whenever they need to, especially for signing up for roles. Speaking of the roles, the key aspects there are that the participants of the meeting know what their role is, know what's involved in that role, and they are prepared to execute that role to the best way possible that they can. For the speeches, obviously our intention is to have the speeches come from pathways. Sometimes people are doing special speeches, but usually want the speeches to come from that. How do we promote and encourage that? And we'll discuss that this evening. Having creative programs, things that inspire the members to participate in the meetings and keep them lively, keep them interesting. So it also encourages membership retention. People want to continue to participate with the club because they're enjoying the programs that are being presented at each meeting. And then lastly, of course, our evaluations being positive, supportive, and supporting the members in their growth as Toastmasters as they develop through their Toastmasters experience. All right, so let's start with agendas. Probably most of the people here, you have a club site, and the club site is organized and overseen by a group called Free Toast Host. Most of the default sites, that's what they set up, is what's called the Free Toast Host site. They do that, if you weren't aware of this, because there is a connection between Toastmasters International and Free Toast Host. Free Toast Host is not part of Toastmasters International, but there's a working agreement. In the business world, you could call Free Toast Host a third-party vendor for Toastmasters International. They help manage the club sites for Toastmasters International. So they have a structure to them. New clubs that join are eligible to get their site created by Free Toast Host. Free Toast Host provides a bunch of tools to help make that site work. And there's a one-way data path that can occur between International and Free Toast Host. So like the clubs can be notified when International recognize a new member, so then they can make sure that member gets onto the club website. It's one way. The club site does not communicate back with International, which some people complain. It's like they have to get into their International account and update whenever they do a functionary role because it's not automatically being updated at TI site themselves. Well, unfortunately, that's just the way it works. Now, one advantage to that is Free Toast Host has created, in coordination with Toastmasters International, some standard agenda templates. They can be customized by the club, but you can go to the TI website with that address that's on the screen and be able to then download onto your club site the standard meeting agendas recognized and approved by Toastmasters International. By when I approved that it's okay to do it a different way. It's just that this is what they recognize as, the common base structure for most Toastmasters meetings. So you don't have to be creating from scratch, basically. Now you can, if you want to. Free Toast Host provides for 3 individuals in the club to have the authority to create new agendas and create new agenda templates. That's the club president, the vice president for education, and the webmaster. So some of you may have seen this. If not, I will just briefly show you what some of these look like. Oh, and I have things in the chat. I should have the chat window open. I apologize. What do we have here? Oh, thank you, Jim. You copied that link into the chat. Thank you very much. It's nice to have somebody who's supporting me like that. I don't always get that in the courses I teach. That's great. All right, so I will bring up our club's site. So this is, if you sign into your club site as a member and then you click there to the left, meeting agendas, you will see an agenda. So this is the agenda of our most recent meeting from April 1st. And this is what would come up, where the next meeting agenda would come up when you do it. The plus button allows you to create an agenda. So I'll just do that so you can see what this looks like. And so the first thing you do is set up. You provide when the meeting date is. So our next meeting is April 15th at 7 o'clock. And then you can select from club templates that you've already saved. You can copy an existing agenda and then just remove roles or move people around so they're not doing the same roles all the time. Or if you've saved previous templates, a template one is the standard template we got from Toastmasters International. When we were during COVID doing all of our meetings remotely, we created a special template for our Zoom meetings. Template 2 is one that I use for instructional purposes for new VPEs so they can test and play around with things. So we have that in the club. So if you select the standard agenda template, it will provide those standard meetings. It knows that our club's time is 1900 hours or 7 p.m., even though I say here it goes through that anyway. And then we move around a little bit with our club. We are in 2 different locations at different times of the year. So our next club meeting is at the public library. So we select the menu. And we've saved our locations at the site. So we do that. The agenda will show where it is and the address so people can automatically, put it into the GPS, if they've, especially for guests, if they've never been there before and don't know how to get to the library. And then you can add a description. This we tailored for our club. I'm trying to remember way back what the Toastmasters default one is. It might actually have the mission statement, which is here. We may have kept that. We put the meeting theme on there because we do a theme for all of our meetings. I don't remember what the one for April 15th is, so I won't fill it in. But the Toastmaster can then do that. And then we save the agenda. And that allows the agenda item to show up, and this is how things are. And if we get back into normal agenda mode, you would see, once it refreshes, the agenda for the 15th, and people can then sign up for things and so forth like that. So that is, the use of that is fine. And I say, I believe most clubs in the district use the free Toast Host site so they can work their agendas that way. If you don't, if your website was created outside of free Toast Host, how you create agendas might be different, but you always want to make sure you create them and create them in advance so people can sign up for the different roles. I usually encourage clubs to have meetings at least, or agendas available at least 2 months prior to that meeting. We meet twice a month, so we'd have 4 agendas. If your club is a monthly meeting club, you'd have 2. You might have more if you have a lot of members wanting to sign up for things. All right, back to the slides. Any questions so far? Okay, good. So we will continue. For some reason I have to click twice to advance my slides. I don't know why it's doing that. Okay, so now let's look at the meeting goals. We're all familiar with, I think we're all experienced Toastmasters here. No reason for me to go down through this list. Now, these are the common meeting roles. Some clubs have additional things. Some clubs have a joke master, for instance. Some clubs have they use the paper ballot, so they have a ballot counter, and that's officially on their agenda. It rotates among the members. So you may have additional roles, but the common role that you're going to have at every meeting, you have the grammarian. Often is the grammarian and word master are combined in many clubs. Some clubs, if they have enough members, have it separate. You have an odd counter, you have a timer. Obviously, you have prepared speakers, you have evaluators. As say, anything above and beyond that is up to the club, but you would have these general roles. The key is making sure people know what to do. So where can they find that? On the Toastmasters International website, there is a document called the Navigator. Okay. On page 5 of the Navigator, they have a brief paragraph for the different meeting rules. It is brief. It's good, but it's not complete. You can get a full description in the Toastmasters Wears Many Hats manual, and there's the manual number if you wish to go to the TI website and be able to download that. You can search by the manual number and you'll be able to get there, or you can just search on Wears Many Hats and you'll get the same document. So it's in there, all right? My slides are using a slightly older description from before TI remodeled their website. They actually had a page devoted to meeting rules. It's still in the archives. So you can get into the archives and look at it. It's just no longer in the general path of clicking on different options on the website, but you can still be able to get to it. And I say these will be included in the slides if people wish me to send them after the meeting. What our club has done for every single one of these roles, I will not take credit for this. I didn't think to do this. Our president from last year did this wonderful thing. We have an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper that has these descriptions on it that we've inserted into one of these plastic document sleeves. And so we give that out at the beginning of the meeting as people arrive. Whoever is assigned to that role, we give that out. Because what we do at the beginning of the education section is we have the Toastmaster of each of the functionary roles get up and introduce what they do so they can read from that, or if they already know the functionary role well enough, they don't necessarily like to read. But we do that, especially for the guests. So the guests know what's going on. But it helps new members too. They have that as a frame of reference. Then we collect it at the end of the meeting so it's available for the next meeting. We found that very, very helpful. And we've actually discovered more people, more new members. We've had a huge influx of new members in the last 12 months in our club. We have more than 50% of our membership now who have been a member for a year or less, which is not normal for our club. We have new members signing up for functionary roles because they know, oh, I have this reference. It's no longer a scary prospect for people, especially the Toastmaster role, which we would sometimes have a devil of a time. We were sometimes just rotating through like the same 4 members being Toastmaster that would just rotate through across 4 meetings. Now we have people stepping up. Our last 4 meetings, 3 of them have had new Toastmasters. So the members who want to step up because they have that. They have something that that they can reference, know what they're doing. So it's very, very helpful. So as we're experienced Toastmasters here. I'm not necessarily going to go through all of this because we're all familiar with this. Some things, of course, can vary club by club. This first bullet here, okay, managing the agenda. Some clubs have the vice president of education do that for stability among meetings, not necessarily the responsibility of the Toastmaster of each meeting. So obviously how your club is designed things can vary, and that's perfectly fine. You're making the role fit your members. All right. So give you a chance just to glance over this, see if there's anything you have a question of, introducing the speakers, obviously, and introducing all of the functionary roles as well. Some clubs, again, may not have the Toastmaster be the principal person to make sure that the roles are filled. It's sometimes a joint effort between the Toastmaster and the Vice President of Education. Again, your club can vary, and that's perfectly fine. Okay, moving on. Table Topics Master. All right. So the Table Topics Master, sometimes abbreviated the Topics Master, comes up with the series of table topics questions, typically. Sometimes other clubs do prepared ones, but usually that's what the table topics master is doing. Since our club has themes, we usually encourage, we don't make it a requirement, but we encourage that the table topics master have their table topics somehow fit into the theme. Okay. So if you noticed before I did the new agenda for April 15th, the April 1st meeting last week at our club, the theme was April Fools. So the table topics master came up with table topics that dealt with pranks, which you can see kind of fits into the theme. It's not a direct, 100% correlation with the theme, and that was fine. It was actually very fun table topics. We like to give people the ability to be creative that way. How many table topics should the table topics master prepare? That depends on how big your club is and the average number of people you have attend a meeting. I usually suggest for a standard club that has 20 members, which means usually you're probably going to average 10 to 12 people attending each meeting. Some of those people are already going to have major roles like the Toastmaster or prepared speaker. Probably preparing 6 to 8 is a good idea. We have that included in the document that we provide to folks. So they have that idea. And we also make sure they know that. When somebody signs up for the table topics master, I've actually put in as a webmaster, they get an automatic thing sent to them from the club website, which kind of gives a list of things to prepare. And it does say prepare 6 to 8 questions, topic questions. So that helps with the table topics master. By the way, one thing that we've also done with the club, as well as those sheets, which are in plastic sleeves, are in the file section of our club's website. There's a document that has all the meeting rules as well. So if somebody is considering signing up for a role, as say, since we keep the sheets in the club supplies, they can still look up what the rules are, which is a great way to keep them informed of what the rules are, because that's on the website, which they can access at any time. So they can look up the rules. General evaluating. Now here, again, is dependent on the club. I've been a member of some clubs where the general evaluator, yes, is leading the evaluation portion of the meeting, but it's basically the reports of the grammarian, the accounter. The evaluators are sometimes introduced by the Toastmaster. So again, however your club handles it, you just want to include what the roles of the person are in the description so that people are aware of it. Grammarian, according to the Toastmaster meeting rules, grammarian also provides the word of the day. I know some clubs that are large, have a large membership, divide up some of the roles. Some clubs have a separate word master from grammarian, and that's fine. The more members you get involved, the better. If your club does that, just make sure it's distinct. And your agenda has the ability for people to sign up for one or the other. And then, of course, the counter. Now, here's one nice thing that we've done on those sheets of paper, as I said, that we printed off and give to the members at the beginning of the meeting. We have listed there some of the common pause breaker words or phrases that people use. So somebody who's new to being the counter has a frame of reference. They can listen for, oh, is it an Is it an Is it a so? I know, whatever it might be. The common ones are listed there. I think there's 8, if I recall, for them to listen for. So that'll help new people. The first time somebody has to be an counter, instead of just having to think, gee, what are the pause breakers I've heard used in the past or I tend to use, they have something that they can be listening for, whether it applies to them or just anybody. So that also, again, helps them do the job better because they have something to listen for. Timer, of course. Now, this is one thing that is very important for clubs, is to make sure that however the timing is handled is very clear and unobtrusive to folks. What do I mean by that? Very early on in my Toastmasters career, I used to be a member of a club that rang a bell at the end of the maximum allotted time for a speech. That's not a good idea to do. What Toastmasters says is use the colored system. However you're doing it. If you're an online club, you have it appear in the background of the timer's thumbnail image in Zoom. If you're live, you can use a lighted timing device or use colored sheets of construction paper with the 3 different colors, however your club does it. If you use some kind of mechanical device, I'd recommend making sure you have a backup. Our club has a timing device. If for some reason the batteries are dead and they haven't been checked and the lighting box isn't working, you want a backup. So we also have the colored signs on the end of little sticks that can be held up. So the timer can hold something up. We have included in the club supplies a stopwatch. So if the person's cell phone doesn't have a timer app on it, and they don't have something to be able to do, well, we just loan them the club stopwatch. They just have to give it back at the end of the meeting. Always make sure you have a backup. Because this, more than any other role, if it kind of falls out of place and is awkward, it can affect the entire meeting and people's impression of it. If you have a timer, then that timer better be able to do their job and do it effectively. Your guests are going to look and say, this is kind of disorganized. That's one of the first sources that people are going to see that there's something off. So you always want to make sure that's going to work. If for first-time timers, we tell our a member who's being a timer for the first time, come to the meeting a little bit early so you can practice with the timing device. You know how it works. So when the meeting actually starts, you know how to use it. So again, this is all things to make sure that when they are now fulfilling that role, they're fulfilling it in a highly effective manner, which makes the meeting go smoother, leaves a positive impression to any guests, and it also makes it more enjoyable for the members. Okay. Any questions of the roles before I move to pathways? I'm doing good on my time. Okay. So I am not going to get into the logistics of pathways. I'm not going to list all the different pathways there are, anything else like that. I think there's actually another pillar for that, if I recall. There is. Thank you, Jim. Jim's keeping me honest here tonight. Thank you very much. Again, the focus of this one is encouraging pathways participation at the meetings. What does that mean? Means people are speaking from pathways. Now, one way that helps, okay, I'll jump ahead, to my next slide. One way that helps is if your club's website is from Free Toast Host, what they've got is when somebody signs up to be a speaker, they have that agenda item has an option to list this is a speech. And what the Free Toast Host site is going to do automatically is put on the online agenda on the website how they can fill out the information about the speech when they sign up to speak. And one of the things it has is a box where they select what is the speech project from Pathways. When they select it, it will automatically fill in the time, and it will automatically load a link to the evaluation form used for that speech. So at least that speaker's evaluator can download that and use it. And we've had some of our club speakers who want to print that out, copy it, and bring it with them and have the old club do it. We have general evaluation forms for any speech, but if the speaker would like to use the one dedicated to that speech project, they're eligible to do that. And Free Toast Host Site does that automatically. That's the wonderful thing. So it makes it easier for the member who's giving the speech. They don't have to do a lot of stuff to manipulate the site. It's being done automatically. So that's to help encourage them. The other thing that is great on encouraging it is to provide a means of recognition. Okay. So one of the things that our club does, we do this both for the first-time Toastmaster and a person who gives their first pathway speech. Most people, for their first pathway speech, they give an icebreaker. So what we've been doing is giving to new people, a new Toastmaster or a new speaker, is a little packet of icebreakers. We also give them a little club award. It's an old trophy cup, not really tall, but when you have completed one level, you hold on to the cup and it just moves to the next member when they complete a level. The concept of this, by the way, is sometimes called a boondoggle. It's a little award that just keeps being rotated around as to who's holding on to it. So we do that to encourage people to complete their levels. Whoops, my camera fell down. Sorry about that, folks. So that is also a way to encourage the pathways. They don't get the boondoggle if they're just giving speeches in that pathway. They have to complete the level in order to get it. So encourage them to participate in the levels. Again, we don't enforce that because we do want people to be able to speak if they need to. Like not long ago, we had somebody who was going to have to be giving a professional presentation, wanted to practice parts of it because it was a long presentation. It was 40 minutes. We weren't going to do the whole thing at the meeting, but they picked parts of it to rehearse at the club meeting. Fine, we can do that. But in general, we encourage pathway speakers, and we've had more people participating in pathways because of that. And because we make it easier to work with. Both us as a club and what the Free Toast Host site does make it easier so that it's less confusing for them, and therefore, if it's easier for them to work with the pathways, it's easier for them to plan ahead. Okay, I'm not going to harp any more on that because I know we cover pathways more specifically in another session. So the next pillar was about creative programs. Here's the audience participation portion of my presentation, okay? Because yes, I've been around for over 30 years. I've seen a lot of things, but let's get some ideas from all of you. What are some things that your club has done or things that you've seen that's very effective that you'd like to share with the rest of the class?
My absolute favorite thing is our Christmas Yankee giveaway. Everybody comes in with something from their house. They shouldn't spend any money on it, something they've gotten that they're tired of, or Christmas decoration from years past, or just something they don't really want wrapped.
Mm-hmm.
And then for table topics, you get up, you pick a present that you did not bring, open it, and then talk about it for a minute or two.
Oh,
and
I love that. So you're combining a grab bag with table topics.
Grab bag,
that's
table
a great
topics. Idea. And it's very, we look forward to it every year, and it is so much fun.
It sounds like it. And the advantage to that, by the way, is there's a takeaway. People are taking something away from the meeting. And it's not like papers or anything like that. It's something that's nice and enjoyable. That is an excellent, excellent program. I love that. Thank you very much. Anyone else have a great one to share?
Well,
Bill,
we
go ahead.
do something similar, except for Halloween. So
Mm,
every year we have our Halloween meeting and we bring in some trick or treat candy and we encourage people to wear some Halloween type item. And we turn down the lights. And one thing I love doing is I give my annual Halloween creepy speech. And I do things like Bigfoot or the Loch Ness Monster or ghosts or vampires or werewolves or things like that. So everybody really gets a big kick out of that. We usually also have a Halloween themed table topics and we try to have everybody participate in that. So just like the Christmas meeting, we do a Halloween meeting.
sounds good. I like that, Bill. Invite me to your next one. No, I'm kidding. Maybe not. That sounds like fun. I think I saw your hand up, Jim, right?
I can agree with Bill. I know many of us look forward to the special Halloween themed meeting that he mentioned. One other event that I really enjoy is we organized a 5-site video conference. We are a corporate club and
Okay.
we work for the Naval Nuclear Laboratory. There are 5 different locations across 3 states, New York, Pennsylvania, and Idaho. And we were able to organize a 5-site video conference Toastmaster meeting where the roles were distributed across many different sites, 5 different table topic speakers, as well as 3 speakers and evaluators. I'm thankful. There are a lot of excellent Toastmaster clubs in our corporate environment, and it is good for us to collaborate and share the good feedback that we have for one another, as well as the excellent speeches. So that's one of the things that I truly enjoy.
Got it. I like what you said. I remember, I don't remember the year. I've been at Toastmasters in District 53 for way too long. But there was a time when District 53 actually had a program encouraging people to visit other clubs as a speaker evaluator pair. It looks like Jim remembers that because your thumb went up.
I'm not sure that I can say that I remember it, but I can say that that's a great idea.
Yeah.
I will also say that we've had joint meetings. Our location, we're right next to GE Niskayuna, and we have had joint meetings with GE Niskayuna before. We went to the Niskayuna Library on a sunny midday in May, and we were actually able to meet outside. Now, that doesn't work for PowerPoint and projectors and stuff, but in most other ways, a 75 degrees, sunny, no rain, then it was a beautiful day. And again, collaboration between clubs, building relationships, very good thing.
Yeah. Okay. Good. All right. One thing that I want to add, again, I mentioned earlier in the session that our club has had a large influx of new members recently. We have a large percentage of our membership is new members. So one thing we've started to do is occasional workshops, a workshop meeting. We do them about every 4 months. We pick a particular theme. What is it that workshop is on? Okay. The very first one we did was on effective evaluations. The most recent one we did was on elevator speeches. And that's the idea of the whole meeting. One person is the workshop leader, which is basically the Toastmaster for that meeting. They do presentation, whether they themselves, other people, and we actually had people from we had a district officer and somebody from the Advanced Toastmasters Club come in as well. So we had 3 people present, and then being a workshop, then they do little exercises. They get to practice. what was discussed in the workshop. And we found that's very helpful for the newer members. So they're getting exposure to some of these concepts and actually being able to practice it. And that helps, again, get them more comfortable with some of the concepts and some of the principles involved in Toastmasters by being able to do that. So we found that to be something that's very successful.
The car, my car is in the shop. That's going to be a $500.
We lost Patrick. Okay. So unless anybody has any other special program they'd like to share, I can move back to the slides.
Well, just the typical backwards meeting.
Yeah, those are always
That-
fun.
I was with a more experienced club. I mean, I was visiting and they did it backwards and it was very, very funny because the evaluator talked about everything they did wrong in their speech. And then they had to remember all of that stuff and put it all in. So it was hilarious.
Backward meetings are fun. I remember years ago, I was visiting the GE Schenectady Club. And they did an interesting theme, which was 5-word sentences. Everything, table topic speeches, was in 5-word sentences. That took a lot of thinking, but it was an interesting thing, and people had time with that. I also, again, going back many years, just for some other creative ideas, I remember a club that did a paired toast. So when people arrived, they put their name on a slip of paper and they were put in a hat and you drew it. So you were paired off in the meeting. So if you were a speaker, then the person who was your pair was your evaluator. And then the table talks was designed to be like a point counterpoint arrangement. And the pairs, one was the pro, one was the con. So it was an interesting meeting. And it gave that the club that did that had people who had kind of been away for a while and they were starting to come back. So there were people that weren't really well known. So it was a great way for people to get to know each other. It was a fun meeting. They put that out there. So yeah, you can come up with interesting programs like that. Absolutely. Okay. Now the big one everybody loves to talk about. Whoops, there went. Evaluation. We're experienced members. I don't really need to go through the evaluation, how the evaluation process works. But I want to stress this. And it sounds weird for me to stress this, but in all my years of Toastmasters, I've encountered clubs that haven't always done this. You always, 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 always want to evaluate every speech. Always. Now, our club has adopted something for like somebody who's rehearsing a speech for a speech contest, or I use the example of the person who's rehearsing something for their work. Instead of an individual evaluator, we will sometimes do, by request of the speaker, what's called a round robin evaluation. Anybody heard this before, or is this a new concept for me to go over? I see one head nodding. Yeah. Basically, how the round robin works is everybody gets an opportunity to provide one positive item, something that they really liked about the speech, and one suggestion for improvement. And as you go around the room, you can't repeat what somebody else already said. So it gives everyone a chance to provide feedback to the speaker, and they get a diversity of different things. So we'll do a mix and match like that. But unless the person requests it, we're always going to have somebody to be able to do the evaluation. And I said, we will sometimes allow them, if they would like to use the evaluation form that comes with their Pathways project, it can be printed and copied beforehand. We have a standard evaluation form in the club just for speeches in general, things that worked in 3 different categories, which is what we heard, what we saw, and what we felt. Those are the 3 positive categories, and suggested for improvements in the area of delivery, language, and structure. So it's 3 items in each, positive and negative. And it's a full sheet of paper, 8.5. Then you turn it into the speaker at the end of the meeting so they can take that home and for their own lessons. So we get all of our members involved in evaluation. Round robin, everybody participates. Members can choose to fill out an evaluation form. If they don't, usually all of our members do. They've gotten used to doing that. Guests don't have to fill out an evaluation form for the speaker. We've had some guests who do that. They see everybody else doing, oh, this is fun. And we give 2 minutes after a speech to give people time to write that up and be able to provide to the speaker. So we get everybody involved. We still have the official formal evaluation done by the speech evaluator, but we also get everybody involved to keep their practice going. One of the scariest things for new members when they think about giving an evaluation is they don't know if they really know what to say. It's like they're not sure they're worthy or something. By giving them the chance to provide simple feedback early on, they already get their feet wet in the process. They're more comfortable when it comes time for them to actually be a speech evaluator. And we have people stepping up to do that who are, fairly new members. We try to keep the policy of Toastmasters where you have to give a speech before you evaluate a speech. But with so many new members we've had recently, we have broken that a little bit. And they still do a great job.
I went to an online meeting where where everybody typed in the chat their comments after the speech.
Yeah. During COVID, when we were a complete online meeting via Zoom, we did that. Actually, we put a link into the chat. We had our vice president of education at the time, who was very knowledgeable how to do this, had set up an area for each member on the file manager section of the club website. So people would fill out kind of like a SurveyMonkey kind of front-end evaluation form. It would be saved into a big document. So the person after the meeting can see everybody's comments in one place. That was cool. That was really cool.
I attended an advanced club in Washington State called Professional Speaking, and they have an online once a month, and they had what they called a 360-degree evaluation. But basically, they invite people from all over the world to come and give a speech to them, and they get 4 of their advanced people will evaluate the speech together, and one of them gives a regular pathways evaluation. One of them turns it off, so they don't watch, they don't see it, they only listen, and they give an evaluation on the sound alone. Another one, it does just watches the speech with no sound and gives an evaluation based on the nonverbal. And then they give just on the presentation as a whole, how well, because it's an online presentation, so how well they did their slides and all the rest. And it's very interesting. It's fun. It's fun to attend just to hear the evaluations.
It would be. Sounds great.
Say, Rob,
Yes,
I'll just make a comment on the other end of the spectrum. At our last meeting, we had something interesting happen. We had one of our more experienced speakers give a speech, and his evaluator gave a very precise evaluation of the speech, going through a lot of little things like, oh, I don't remember, the person cleared his throat a couple times or smacked his lips. And we had a guest at the meeting, and at the end of the meeting, he said, oh boy, when you give evaluations, you even talk about people, smacking their lips or something, really? So we made sure that we assured him that no, we're only doing that because the person who gave the speech was a different Jim, not Mr. Alt, is very experienced. So we get a little more nitpicky with our high-level people. With a new member, we would never do that. We would just stick with a few basic things. So no, don't worry that we're going to make fun of you because you have a stain on your shirt. We would only do that to someone like Bill.
Right. Well, here's what I would suggest if you have a situation like that. Do that before you introduce the evaluator. So the members have that context before they hear the evaluation. We sometimes do that if the speaker was asking specifically for the evaluator to listen for something, especially like if their previous speech they were told you do this a lot, try to reduce it or eliminate it. So they ask the person to listen for that. So we let that be known at the beginning. So then it's not such a weird thing to the guest. Yeah. But that's a good thing to make sure of. Make sure that not only is the evaluation comfortable for the speaker, but also for the guests. Very good, Bill. I got 4 pointers here in this slide that comes from an article from the Toastmasters magazine back in October 2016. That was the issue they did back then, where nearly the entire magazine was focused on evaluations. I thought it was neat to do a whole month on that with that theme. 4 main pointers for effective evaluations. Be honest, remain positive, and I would add to this also, make sure in terms of the honesty, you let the speaker know this is what you think, you believe. There's no something that works all the time or none of the time. It's always somebody's opinion, and you want to make that clear for folks. Pay attention to the speaker's goals. If you are being the evaluator of a pathway speech, find out before the meeting what the objectives of that project are. And again, that's something that the free Toast host, if you click on that speech project, select it when you sign up to speak, it shows that. So then the evaluator can already just look on the website. What are they doing? What's the purpose of this project? And include that in your evaluation. You're evaluating what the speaker does, not who the speaker is. And that includes, unless the speaker asks you to listen for things that they were commented on a previous speech, each speech you're evaluating independently, not their history. Again, unless the speaker asks for it. And report what you personally see, hear, and feel. Now, I gave a presentation on effective evaluations, so I've kind of expanded on some of this. These are based on 30 plus years as a Toastmaster, my pointers for effective evaluations. This correlates a little bit with one of the pointers from the previous slide. Focus on the intention of the speech. Might not necessarily be the project's intention. A person can get an inspiration of what they want to say based on the description of the Pathways project, but they may have their own spin on it. Find out from the speaker what they intend out of the speech. And also share that during your evaluation. The speaker said this is what they were doing, and so you're providing that. Did it land, and is the takeaway to the audience what they intended? Zero in on the fundamentals, and that's a good way to start your evaluation. What do I mean by fundamentals? Well, were they reading from a script? Did they have it up in front of their face, or did they have it down on the lectern? Oh, there goes camera again. Did they have it down on the lectern, or did they use index cards or some way that they did a smooth use of notes? How was their eye contact? These are all fundamental things that are true for any speech project in Toastmasters, regardless of what the Pathways specific project is focusing on. Well, 9 o'clock. We started a little bit late, but I'm going to finish up in 5 minutes, I promise. Have an even mix of positive items and suggestions for improvement. Give, 5 great flowery things, only 1 thing for improvement. Because then they'll think, oh, gee, everything was great and I don't have to be, learning anything. No, try to balance it out. Now, you may not do an exact 50-50 split, but it's like have 3 positives, 2 suggestions for improvement, something like that. Okay? Try to balance it out. And I always try to include when I evaluate, do a little bit of what I call an educational moment. comment on something about the type of speech or the way they organized it. For the people in the audience who might be thinking of trying out a similar approach, for this kind of, like an example of, okay, if they did a motivational speech. Okay, this kind of speech is a motivational speech. These are the things that are important in a motivational speech. How well did this speaker demonstrate that? So then anybody else thinking of doing a motivational speech, they get what is the important stuff. The audience gets a takeaway, not just the speaker, him or herself. Okay, I have 4 minutes before 9:05. Any other questions for me? No? Well, before I turn it back over to Jim, I thank you all for your participation, for your attention, for taking an hour on your Tuesday evening to be here. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Jim.
Thank you, Professor Ekblaw. I really appreciate all that you presented. Program planning and meeting orientation, you gave us a very good overview of a lot of helpful information. I know that I learned a lot tonight, and I appreciate all of the audience members participating and sharing important and helpful suggestions from their experience. We are all about evaluations. You definitely focused on evaluations here, and I appreciate that. And we are grateful because we're always learning and we're always gathering feedback, and I appreciate what you offered. I have placed a number of resources in the chat. Some of the resources are things that Professor Ekblaw mentioned. I urge you to look for the little 3-dot menu and save the chat. One of the items in the chat is our next meeting. This will be on Tuesday, May 6th. It is not the second Tuesday in this particular case because the district leadership asked me to move the meeting in May to 1 week earlier so as not to interfere with all of us attending the district conference. You can see there's a district conference coming up. It's on my background and Annie's background, May 16 and 17 at the Hilton Garden Inn in Troy, New York. And we are fortunate that this is here in the capital region and we can all take advantage of that. I encourage all of you to join us at the district conference. Please visit d53tm.org for information about the conference. And please join us again for the Club Excellence Series. We will be going through Pillar 5, Membership Strength, with Sharon Mercado as our featured speaker on Tuesday, May 6th at 8 p.m. So with that, I say thank you very much for your attendance. Thank you very much, Professor Ekblaw, for presenting to us tonight. We really appreciate all that you had to share with us. Thank you, everyone.
I put the PowerPoint slides in the chat.
Oh, you did? Yes. So please, everyone, please take a moment and download the slides. That is excellent. Thank you very much, Professor Ekblaw, for sharing that with us. We appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Okay. Don't go. Where are you? Boy, I have too many windows. All righty. Very good. So by all means, save the chat. And we look forward to seeing you again very soon.